Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having fantastic Thursdays. I am having a fantastic Thursday. Do you know why? Because I leave for the beach tomorrow, boys and girls. I cannot wait. I'll be down on the beach for the next couple of days. It should be phenomenal. I cannot wait to get down there. It is going to be a lot of fun. All right, we got a lot to get to here. I want to give you the rundown. We're going to talk about Mike Slive and why he mattered so much to the SEC and why he was such a good person and such a huge asset to college athletics. He died yesterday at the age of 77. I'm going to share a few stories with you about him. We're going to talk about the Nashville Predators making an awful decision to get political and why I think they're setting an awful precedent by endorsing a political candidate. WWE, I hope you guys climbed on board. I've been pumping WWE for a couple of years now, but I told you and wrote last week specifically, the market is not valuing in how much more money they are going to make off of their new television contract. They haven't realized it yet. The value there is going to be massive. Then what happened? News broke about how much money they were going to get on their new television contract, and it is right now up 15%. I've had this stock for several years. It's up a massive amount this year. I'm a buy and hold kind of guy, but I hope you listened to me and got in. The stock went over $50 today, up 15% today alone. The Rockets storm back to tie up the series against the Warriors and this Reuben Foster mess. If you haven't been paying attention, former Alabama linebacker, obviously current San Francisco 49er linebacker. He has been removed from all team activities after being accused of domestic violence. The testimony from his girlfriend is going to blow your mind. I will read it to you. This is important because, as I get to it, you will understand we have to stop treating every allegation of domestic violence as a legitimate allegation. I'll explain why. I'll read it to you. We'll discuss the difficulties associated with that. All of that and more coming. I want to tell you right now, we are going to have an incredible weekend in Las Vegas in August. You can sign up right now. Lots of you have done so. I want to go ahead and sell this thing out so I don't have to keep talking about it, but I'm going to keep talking about it until it's officially sold out. Outkick the weekend in Las Vegas. Prices starting at $490. If you are right now a supporter of Outkick and you're also a lawyer, we also are going to give you the ability to get 8 CLE hours. Limited availability overall. It's going to be awesome at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. Get with the gig. Let's make it happen. Let's dive in. Go sign up for this today. Also, gambling-wise, only one game going on tonight. The Caps are hosting the Tampa Bay Lightning. If you want to gamble on it, make sure you go to sportsbookreview.com for all of your gambling and informational related needs. And this is important. My guy Ryan Kelly at the Home Loan Expert, he's pointing out something interesting to me. We went out for dinner last night at Jeff Ruby's Steakhouse here in Nashville, and he said something interesting to me. He said, Clay, a lot of people don't realize how much equity they have added in their homes. And they don't realize that they have all this equity they're sitting on in their homes. At the same time, they have way too much credit card debt, and they can't pay off the credit card debt. And that credit card debt is sitting there at 20% interest. It continues to build up, and it's hanging over their head, and they're not able to get on their financial feet. If you own your home and you have an old mortgage and you've had it for several years, chances are that the home value you have unlocked is substantial. Why not take advantage of that, unlock some of your equity, pay off all of your existing credit cards, knock out 20% rate in exchange for 3 and 4% interest rate. I'm not a genius, but that seems like a genius move. TheHomeLoanExpert.com. All right, let's get to Mike Slive. I consider Mike Slive to be the most important figure in college athletics in my life from a business side. And let me explain why. The reason why Missouri and Texas A&M are in the SEC and the SEC network exists is because of Mike Slive's leadership. Also, the reason why we have a college football playoff is because of Mike Slive and his visionary leadership and his ability to create the BCS and then shepherd the existing playoff into being. Yesterday, Mike Slive died at the age of 77. There will be many wonderful things said about him. My condolences to his family, but I want to share 2 stories with you. I went on Twitter and I shared these, but I want to share these two stories with you to give you a sense of what kind of guy he was. The day after my second son was born, Mike Slive called me. He was the first non-family member to call me to congratulate me on my son and talk about how much he wished he had spent as much time with his daughter as he had been able to spend with his granddaughter, and how young children were an absolutely revelatory experience, and that I should treasure every minute. Take it from one dad who worked hard when he was young to another dad who is working hard when he is young. He said, make sure that you take the time to experience the fun of having young children, and also look forward to grandchildren. He loved his granddaughter more than anything in this world. He was 77 years old. The other story that I would tell you, and I think this also speaks very well to Mike Slive and gives you a sense for what kind of person he is and was. He sent in the immediate aftermath of a profile that I did with him. I wrote a really long profile, probably 5,000 or 6,000 words with him when I was writing at Fan House. And after that interview, he called me and he asked me a favor. He said, Clay, can you please take out the fact that I started crying during the interview with you? And I said, sure. Why do you want me to take out the fact that you started crying during the interview? And he said, because I think it'll make people believe that I've lost my touch and that I'm losing grip on my ability to run this franchise of the SEC. And he started crying because he was talking about how much SEC football and basketball and SEC in general meant to him. And it was ironic because he had worked in so many different places throughout his life, whether it was on the East Coast, whether it was on the West Coast, whether it was in the middle part of the country. He had never lived in the South until he took the SEC job. And I don't think he had any idea what being commissioner of the SEC was going to mean for him. But in it, he found his life's purpose. And over again, he defined the SEC as being a legacy. And that it was important to understand that you were just the steward of a legacy, not the long-term owner of anything. That ultimately the SEC meant so much to its fans that he just wanted to leave it in a better place than he found it. I thought that he did a fabulous job of that. I know that the people in Missouri and Texas A&M agree. I know that many of you who will sit down and watch the SEC network at any point in time would agree with that as well. And I know there are countless student athletes as well as countless people that he touched throughout his life. And I do think that when he started crying about how much the SEC meant to him and how much the SEC chant meant to him, I took it out of the article. But now, in the wake of his death, I feel like it's important to share a story like that. In all too often, I feel like in today's society, we have a lot of people just focused on themselves and not focused on the legacy they're going to leave behind or the precedent that they are setting for many of the decisions that they are making. Mike Slive was an eminently decent and also eminently brilliant man who the SEC was very fortunate to have at the right time and the right place, and he will be sorely missed by all who knew him. And I'm not the kind of person who comes on and immediately gets on social media and gives platitudes whenever someone dies or whenever something bad happens. I genuinely mean this. I thought that Mike Slive was a fantastic commissioner and that he was a spectacular hire at the right time. So those are my thoughts in general about Mike Slive. I want to transfer from that to this decision, which I think is emblematic of the kind of decision that Mike Slive would not have made. And that's the Nashville Predators deciding to endorse a mayoral candidate in the city of Nashville. I understand the vast majority of you who are going to watch this are not fans of the Nashville Predators. You probably don't live in Nashville, but I think this is an important precedent that is out there that is worthy of discussion. I have said for a long time that every person is entitled to their own political beliefs, and that you and me and everybody out there are entitled to share those beliefs as we see fit. If you are the owner of an NFL team, you have every bit as much of a right to share your political opinions as a player does as a fan in that stadium. Okay? What I do not agree with is the idea that if you are the owner of an NFL team, you should use your franchise as propaganda to advocate for the political causes you believe in. In other words, there is a difference between holding a political fundraiser in your private life for someone that you agree with and supporting them with your money and putting them on the Jumbotron and telling fans that they should endorse them, that you believe that they should vote for him. The Nashville Predators endorsed a Nashville mayoral candidate last night, and I think it is an awful precedent that further delegitimizes the separation between what I would say is an important separation between sports and politics. All right? If you are an owner of a team or a CEO of a team, you are entitled to share your opinion. You should not, I don't believe, say that your team is specifically endorsing a particular political candidate. I think that is a bad move. I think it sets a bad precedent, particularly when you play in a city-funded arena and you are out there and you have the ability, otherwise, to be able to be above politics. This is the basic thesis of my entire book. Republicans buy sneakers too. What it means is that sports should be different than politics. Okay? Sports is one of the places we should be able to go to escape from the serious things in life. What I say in the book and what I said in my article today is you do not think about the political beliefs of somebody that you're high-fiving when you are celebrating in an arena or in a stadium a team scoring. Sports for my entire life was about something bigger than political discord. It was a place where neurosurgeons and janitors could come together and share and exult in our common sports humanity. And we did not have to worry about whether somebody out there was advocating for a political belief that we did not support ourselves. In my book, I tell you this. When I wrote Dixieland Delight, I was supporting Harold Ford Jr. running against Bob Corker for president. In my own life, as I wrote that book, I looked at pictures and I said, let's Photoshop out the fact that I had a Harold Ford Jr. sticker on my shirt that was then photographed and put into the book. I said, I just don't want politics to in any way infringe on people's enjoyment of this book. This is not about politics. This is about SEC football. People have all sorts of different political opinions. You do. I do. I'll be happily tell you what I think about everything. In fact, I don't hide from any of my opinions. But I also don't then go out and say, and you should be doing what I am doing. I tell you my opinion. You can agree or disagree. And I'm saying that as an individual. If the owner of the Preds wants to come out and say that he has a particular opinion, more power to him. If a player for the Preds or any other pro sports franchise wants to come out and say that he has a political opinion, more power to him. What we are getting into is a world where there are zero separations between politics and regular life. My grandmother said when I was young that there are two things you should never talk about in normal discourse with people you don't know: politics and religion. Because whatever you believe has a good chance to alienate somebody else. And so for my entire life, by and large, I have not spent very much time telling you exactly what you should do about politics, and I certainly haven't done that in the world of religion. You do you. I got a radical idea. I don't think that there is any possibility that anybody out there who watches me is going to vote based on what I tell them to do. Moreover, it would trouble me if that were the case, because it would mean that you are abdicating your responsibility as a citizen to be informed and make your own decisions. I'll tell you what I do and what I believe, because I think it helps to eliminate suggestions that I have bias. For instance, if you want to know what I think about any political topic under the sun, I will answer it. And then you can make your decision about how much you value my opinion with every possible ability and knowledge out for me. This is a bad precedent, and I'm afraid that other teams are going to start to follow it. And this is why I was objecting so much to the Colin Kaepernick protest. Colin Kaepernick can do whatever he wants on his private time, but there is a distinction to me between what you do when you're in uniform at the field and what you do when you are in your private life. And so this goes for owners, this goes for players, this goes for fans. I do not want you to try to sell me on politics when I go to watch a hockey game. And it also raises all sorts of interesting issues that are complicated and I think messy. When the team plays in a city-funded and owned arena, as in the process of negotiating an extension, how can you not say there's a quid pro quo involved when the team agrees to endorse a mayor, and then the mayor is going to have to sit on the other side if he wins of the negotiating table from the Nashville Predators and not believe that there is the apparent possibility of bias there? One of the issues with politics in general is not just the perception that people can be bought off, not just the idea that people can be bought off, but the perception of it. So how in the world can this be a smart decision for a team that is a for-profit enterprise to be playing in a city-funded arena and then to be endorsing a political candidate while they have a lease that is up for negotiation, and the man who will decide whether that lease is extended and what the rates are is a guy that they're endorsing for mayor? That's the very essence of a potential quid pro quo. It's everything that you worry about when you think about big business and politics getting in bed together. It's a messy, ugly situation, and frankly, it's an awful precedent to set. There is a difference between an owner in his private life endorsing a political candidate and hosting a fundraiser for them and putting them on the Jumbotron, or putting your mascot beside them in a video and telling people to support them as they run for political election. Here's the other thing. They brought out Senate candidate Phil Bredesen on the ice during the Nashville Predators playoff. They said, and they encouraged everybody to cheer for him. This is a messy situation, because if you in a city-funded arena are bringing out somebody running for political office, don't you have an obligation to bring out somebody else who's running on the opposite side and introduce them too? I just think it makes no sense. This is the Preds CEO. I can't believe that the owners of the Nashville Predators, first of all agree with who should be elected president, and further, that they would be okay with alienating any segment of their fan base based on what the political beliefs are. This is why I said, and this is why the title of my book is Republicans Buy Sneakers Too. Michael Jordan got it right. You shouldn't, in the world of sports, try to slice and dice people up and only appeal to one particular political party. Everybody out there is a sports fan, by and large, regardless of their actual political beliefs. And so instead of alienating half of the population, whether you like it or not, half the people voted for Donald Trump, how about you just run a damn business? I think this is messy. I think it's a bad move for the NHL. I think it's a bad move for the Nashville Predators. I think it would be a bad move for the NFL, for Major League Baseball, or for any other pro sports organization to make an endorsement like this. I would even think the NHL might say, hey, this is not going to be permissible, because effectively you're also putting the NHL behind you when one of your franchises endorses one particular political candidate. By the way, for people who don't know, I think there's like a dozen people running for Nashville mayor. I don't know officially how many people have announced, but there's a lot of them. So it's not as if this is even a 1 versus 2 matchup. This is an ugly situation. Stay out of politics. The guy has defended himself and said they were making the right decision. I think he's totally wrong. It's a awful, awful decision. Furthermore, I have been in the Nashville Predators arena. I bet the vast majority of people in the Nashville Predator arena are not liberal progressives. They're not supporting Democratic candidates. That's probably likely in the larger context of the state of Tennessee, considering Donald Trump won this state by 25 points. Are the Preds going to be endorsing a governor? Are they going to be endorsing a Senate candidate? Are they going to be endorsing a presidential candidate in 2020? I think you can see how ridiculously stupid this idea is to even contemplate making this decision, because then you're setting the precedent. Oh, let's decide who we're going to support in the 2018 gubernatorial campaign. Let's decide who we're going to support in the Senate campaign. Let's also then decide we're going to weigh in 2020 and decide between Donald Trump and somebody else. It's a bad decision, and it just upsets me because the Nashville Predators have made a lot of good marketing decisions. I don't understand how reasonably intelligent people could have sat around the table and decided that this makes sense. Go look at the Twitter feed. It's rare that I write an article. It's rare that I send a tweet where 100% of people respond and say, you know what, I hate you sometimes, but you're right, or you're a genius and I love you. There's not one person who has responded to my Twitter argument and said that they agree with the Nashville Predators weighing in and endorsing political candidates with their mascot standing there live from the arena that's subsidized by the city and state in which their candidates are running. It's just a bad idea. The WWE. I try to make you guys money. Sometimes we have fun with that, and I give you gambling picks, and so far in the last year, I'm around 50%. I have been telling you this. Buy WWE stock. That's what I've been telling you for a long time. I have been telling you, buy WWE stock, and you will make a lot of money over time. I told you, buy WWE. I'm a shareholder. I have been for a couple of years. And then what happened today? I hope a lot of you listen to me because it's like my own personal stimulus plan, the Travis stimulus plan. WWE stock is up 15% today. An absolutely blockbuster day. 15%. The Travis stimulus plan panning out, bringing home a ton of money to all of you. I hope you listened. Again, WWE stock, I told you that, and I explained exactly what was going to happen. I explained exactly what was going to happen. I said they are going to get a lot more money for their television rights than the market is expecting. I wrote that article on Outkick last week. I came on and I specifically laid it out for you. And then what happened last night? The news broke that they were going to get a lot more money for their television rights than anybody was expecting. And the stock went up 15% today. The stock has over doubled this year since I told you to start buying it. I am telling you right now, you are right. If you listen to me, stocks are on a roll. It's going to do well. Just telling you right now. All right, the Rockets storm back. I hope this series ends up being good because if the Rockets can't make this an interesting series, then it's going to be ugly. It's going to be a mess if we end up in this situation where we've got a 5-game series and maybe the Celtics win in 5 or 4 or whatever else. The NBA, I want to be entertained. I got 15 hours a week of radio to do. The last thing I want is a crappy series. I want for things to be on a roll. I want for the series to be fantastic. I want for there to be a lot of success and good storylines. I still don't think it's going to happen. I think that the Rockets are going to get run at Golden State. I think that they are going to have a good run. By the way, somebody said rip to the blood bank guarantee yesterday. If I don't say it's a blood bank guarantee, then it's not a blood bank guarantee. The Warriors in Game 1 was the blood bank guarantee. I rarely give blood bank guarantees. The blood bank guarantee has like a 65% winning percentage. I sometimes get picks wrong. We're at 50% on the year. I'm sorry. If you bet every single thing that I told you to bet, you'd be up half. If you bet against every single thing that I told you to bet, you'd be down half, right? Your money would not really have changed at all. So just so you know, kind of keep track, respect the picks. I think that the Golden State Warriors are going to win the next 2, go up 3-1, and then I think they're going to come back to Houston and win to go up 4-1. But Steph Curry doesn't look right. He's 2 for 13 from 3. He hasn't looked like himself. What is going on with Steph? I'm not sure. Kevin Durant's been the only reliable Warrior through 2 games. And look, the supporting cast of the Rockets got hot. They couldn't miss last night. Is that going to continue? I'm not sure. So we'll have to see what exactly happens out there with the Rockets. Finally, I want to share this because it's not getting as much media attention as the initial stories. And I think it's an important part of the storyline here. Today in court testimony, Reuben Foster's accuser gave testimony, says he did not hit her once. Actually, she struck him. She said, I was threatening Reuben that I was going to fuck up his career. She called 911, she said, testified 3 times because I wanted to be extra. I wanted him to go down. I was pissed. Okay? Former Alabama Crimson Tide linebacker Reuben Foster. I think this is important to pay attention to because we have entered into an era, and I've been on this bandwagon for a while, and hardly anybody else is there with me. Okay? Let's be honest. All right? He may well have paid her. People can say that he paid her and that she's changing her story and everything else. That's certainly possible. It's not uncommon for domestic violence victims to change their stories and stay with the people who beat them. That's one of the challenges of domestic violence in general. But here is a larger issue. Here is a larger issue that I think is substantial. We have entered into an era where the only thing that matters is whether or not you believe a story advances your worldview. And if it does, then you are automatically going to believe it's true. So, if you believe that domestic violence happens too often, then the moment that somebody is accused of domestic violence, you believe that is true. Okay? Furthermore, if you believe that racism is a bad evil in the country, then the moment that somebody alleges racism, you adopt it and believe it to be true. You cannot live trying to project your worldview onto individual circumstances because frequently they don't fit. When I was in law school, a criminal law professor I had said there were 3 things that matter. The facts, the facts, and the facts. And what I do over and over again is I go look at the facts without regard for what my worldview is and determine whether or not something is likely to have happened. That's not what the rest of the Twitterverse does. That's not what most people do in social media. They immediately advance the causes of stories that justify their worldview, try to cast aside anything that challenges that worldview. That's not the way justice works. Justice should be blind. This is my argument with OJ. OJ got off with murdering Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman because there had been racism that was incredibly prevalent against black people long before OJ. He got off because Emmett Till was innocent and he was guilty. And he was murdered for being black. OJ murdered those two people and got off because he was black. OJ cashed the check to swing from one side to the other. What often happens in society is that we go from one extreme to the other and we skip right over in the middle truth, justice, and true American jurisprudence that treats everyone equally. We skip right over equality. And what I am arguing for is that the way you end up with equality is not by foisting upon us inequality. It's not by trying to make things that aren't true true. You don't end domestic violence by believing that every domestic violence accuser is telling the truth. You certainly don't end racism by believing that everyone who screams racism is also telling the truth. You look at every individual circumstance and decide what the truth should be and is based on the facts that are there. Very few people do that. And if you do that, what is ironic about things is you get accused of being racist, of being sexist, of being misogynistic. You don't get your attack, you don't get your specific story examined. You just get attacked on an individual basis. I saw today somebody sent me the link. The New York Times Book Review has a huge book review of Michael Bennett's new book. It doesn't mention that he was proven to be a liar by the Las Vegas Police Department. How in the world can the New York Times, which holds itself out as the most trustworthy source in news, review Michael Bennett's entire book about racism in America and not include in that review, oh, by the way, this guy writing an entire book about racism in America was proven to be a liar via 190 plus different videos that prove that the 3 minority police officers who interacted with him on that night in Las Vegas, 2 of whom were Hispanic, 1 of whom was black, did absolutely nothing wrong and he lied about them. To me, if you are proven to be a liar about the subject that you are writing about, that means that I can't trust you on that subject anymore. You may disagree with some of my opinions. I don't know that anybody has ever been able to accuse me or even prove one iota of dishonesty about what I'm doing, about what I'm arguing. That's because I look at the facts and then I construct arguments based on them. How can the New York Times do an entire review of Michael Bennett's book and not actually point out, oh yeah, this guy who's writing an entire book directed to white people, which by the way, nobody bought. Only 3,000 people bought Michael Bennett's book in the first month that it was released. How can they do an entire review of his book, which he didn't write, by the way, somebody else wrote for him, and not actually point out that he is a liar? And therefore, everything that he's going to say about race in America is suspect because he's already been proven to be a liar. It's just, I got to be honest with you, a sign that truth and justice and impartiality does not exist very many places in the media today. I'm one of the places I like to think where it exists. I got a 3-hour daily radio morning show. I do an afternoon show here. I write all day long. This, my friends, is what I have chosen to do for a living. And it's starting to pay pretty well. I'm going down to my beach house. I appreciate all of you coming and hanging out and watching my show. It comes on every afternoon, not tomorrow because I'll be on the road down to the beach in Florida, but I'll be live all next week from this show as well as from my Fox Sports radio show, which you can hear 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern. Go download this show on Outkick, search it out on iTunes, and come hang out with us in Vegas August 23rd through 26th. Sign up now. We want to sell out our first annual Outkick the weekend in Vegas with speeches and panel discussions coming from all sorts of people about sports, gambling, and beyond. I'm telling you right now, it is going to be a lot of fun. And you should be there. If you are a fan of Outkick, come out. We got prices starting at $490, going all the way up to $2,000 for dinner with me and a special guest that I guarantee you guys will love. Thank you all for hanging out with me. I will see you tomorrow. Kisses. Thursday edition Outkick the Show is done. DBAP, boys and girls. This has been Outkick the Show. I'll see you tomorrow morning for the radio show.